Good morning. I'm Paul Healy, Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Principals Association, and joining me today for our weekly update is Dr. Eric Eschbach, our new Assistant Executive Director. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Paul.
So to say that this is a moving target is basically an understatement of what's happening.
Every week is different.
So last week we talked to you about 180 days and hours, and we have some updates for you about that. But yesterday at 3:30, the governor rolled back some things that we normally had in position, that all the counties were green, with increases in COVID cases, and even in Pennsylvania, I think it was over 900 the other day. His excuse for having some additional restrictions is so that actually schools could open in the fall. So basically what he said, confirmed by the Secretary of Health, and then there was a doctor, pediatrician, online too, saying that if we don't do these things, schools will not open in the fall. That they're seeing widespread use in some of the other states, and it's coming down the 95 corridor, coming down the 15 corridor. So those restrictions that were put in place yesterday, some of them will affect all of us in one way, shape, or form. Most of them, though, Eric, had to deal with bars and restaurants. And the reason for that, saying that that's where they've noticed where the spread is happening.
Yeah, that really is the major change. I think what's impacting schools is the question out there as to the statement in his order that talks about teleworking,
right,
and says that businesses shall telework unless they're unable to. And the question is, do school districts, do school buildings qualify under that? I know our building does.
Yeah, so we've been talking about that. We were teleworking before we got to green before, and now we're closing down our office as of today and having our employees telework. We did ask that question. We kind of put that out there. We're waiting for a response because I know, as some of our members will say, what if our superintendent is saying you need to report to work and continue to come into the office? What does that telework thing mean? I'm just going to read the statement so that we're all on the same page with the teleworking. Here's the statement that came out. It says, unless not possible, all businesses are required to conduct their operations in whole or in part remotely through individual teleworking. So the last time this came out, it was understood that schools were a business and had to follow that order. So now we're trying to find out, do schools have to follow that order? And they did say in their state, not really in their statement, but in their media thing that we got before, that that they are not putting these restrictions in order right now to prevent face-to-face instruction in the fall. They're doing it to help get to face-to-face instruction in the fall. And it was also interesting in the question and answer period after, I don't know if you picked this up, Eric, but someone from the press asked, well, are you going to be closing down the schools? And his response is, yes, I might have to pull the plug. But then in his next statement, he said, I think that plug will be pulled by parents and teachers not wanting to either report to work or send their kids to school. So we're yet to be seen what's going to happen in the fall. So stay tuned. I think this is really a moving target.
Yeah, and having been in schools, we all know that we're heading towards a very busy time for school principals. The month of August is definitely some of the busiest times that you have in preparation. So the question is your work essential work to opening the building, and can you do that through teleworking? And we're trying to get some clarification on that, and we will communicate that with you as soon as we find out.
Yeah, and so if you didn't hear the governor's press conference yesterday, as I said, most of it dealt with bars and restaurants right now. And basically what he's saying is restaurants could stay open with outdoor seating, which is the preferred thing, at I think it's 25% capacity. It was 50% capacity before, now reduced to 25% capacity. And you can't just go to a bar and sit at a bar and have a drink. The only way that they can serve any kind of alcohol would be at a table and if you order food. And then he was also asked about, what about I think he even used the word nightclubs. Well, nightclubs couldn't be in operation because they're only serving alcohol. So you can still go out find those places that have some outdoor seating, I
Yeah.
guess is the best scenario right now, and wear a mask. And know that if you do go out, there could be very limited seating from now on.
And I know that for especially for our secondary school principals, there are a number of school districts in our region, anyways, that are planning to have their graduation at the end of July or beginning of August. The rules, once again, the order that the governor and the Secretary of Health put out, once again state that no outdoor gathering of more than 250 people will be allowed. So please take that into consideration as you're planning those graduation exercises. Work with your school superintendent to be in touch with your school solicitor as to his or her recommendation on that. But the way we read the governor's rule, you're going to have an outdoor graduation, you're probably going to do it with the graduates only and maybe just a portion of the graduates, and more challenges ahead.
Yeah. So let's get to the two other issues we really want to talk about today. One is to revisit what we talked about last week, was the 180 days and the hours. And then also, what is the school district to do if they have a confirmed COVID case? So let's kind of dive into it. So last week, Eric, we talked about there was some confusion in the field that there was a waiver of the 180 days during the last school year, 19 and 20. Schools did not have to go 180 days. That is off the table right now. Act 13 is done, finalized. We're into a new system. And actually, the new legislation has actually said you must go 180 days of school, and you need to confirm that you're doing that in your plans. The question was, what about the 900 hours for elementary and the 990 for secondary? How do we do that? And is that still in play? So PDE released a template just a few days ago that I believe puts that issue to rest.
Yeah, it surely does.
And I'm going to share the screen while you're talking about.
Please, I would ask you to do that. The template that has been put together, as Dr. Healy said, really puts to rest the question. It says in no uncertain terms that you need to provide a minimum of 180 days of instruction and 900 hours of instruction at the elementary level and 990 hours of instruction at the secondary level. This template, which your superintendent has access to, requires the school district to list the school year start date and the school year end date, and simple subtraction, and you can figure out how we get to 180 days. I know a lot of school districts in the state are looking at pushing their start date to later. I know school districts and school boards are working to revise their calendar so that they can properly prepare for the new school year. It talks about, in number 2 in the template, it talks about how remote learning will be scheduled and how that will be included in the number of days and the required number of hours. And then in number 3, there's just a lot of check boxes that your superintendent and your board president have to ensure that your school district is following.
And that third bullet there talks about the 900 hours and the 990.
Right. So I think this puts to rest the concern that some leaders in the area had was, well, could you go to school 2 hours a day for 180 days? And the answer is no.
Right.
You could be in person for 2 days a week. You could be in person for 2 hours a day, as long as there is remote learning to back that up and that you're accounting for that, and that there's a way to take attendance and there's a way to keep track of those hours.
So that's the big change from last year when we went out in March, is that it wasn't a requirement to take attendance and to make sure to be accountable for those hours. Now that is mandatory.
Sure. And if you scroll down to the 3rd page, they did put an appendix in here, and it just is 2 sample schedules that they said, here's how you could get to the 180 days, 990 hours, doing a hybrid schedule or doing a split schedule. These are just examples. They are could or could not be followed, but this is what they're looking for to be submitted. Again, your school superintendent has to submit this. It all has to be approved by the board. They have to sign off on it, and then the Secretary of Education has to sign off on it as well.
So Eric, I didn't see a date on the document when it was due by. I'm sure it has to be due by this before the start of the school year, but I didn't see a definitive date.
There is no definitive date other than it has to be a part of the health and safety plan.
And approved by the board.
And approved by the board. So that kind of, before school can start, so it kind of backs you up. Your board's going to be approving these most likely in July or August.
Right. That's what I surmise, that probably you're going to see most of these being submitted after the August board meeting at this point in time.
And if school districts have already submitted their health and safety plan, then they add an addendum, and this would be part of the addendum.
So I would also ask you this question, though, because of the given circumstances that we know with the COVID cases, it's probably wise to wait until August and not submit this too early, because depending on the cases and stuff, this calendar and hours and things like that could change, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're really, we really feel that we're in a ready, fire, aim mentality right now, that school leaders, and you've probably experienced it, those who are viewing this, that you're working hard on plans that worked a week ago, a month ago, that won't necessarily work a week from now or a month from now. And that's just the environment that we're operating in right now. So I think one statement that you made last week that rings true to me is we have to be ready to pivot on a dime, and ready to move towards remote learning, to move back to face-to-face learning, maybe multiple times throughout the school year, and really encourage principals to work with your staff to get them ready. That's a huge lift. Remember when we went to, when March 13th came, we did that overnight. You have some time to get ready for that, but your teachers are still going to need a significant amount of training. I'm hearing a lot of school districts spending a week worth of in-service prior to the start of the year, just in professional development with the teachers.
So one of the other issues that we've been getting questions from members, and it's not on the topic today, but I just thought about this, is one of the things that principals will face and schoolers will face is their staff members that decide that, hey, you know, I don't want to come back for whatever reason, whether it's a medical issue or not. And I know we just had a recent case about that. And in the case that we had, we suggested that a doctor note accompany that, be sent to the superintendent, and then a discussion is had relation to that. But there are no clear guidelines on that except medical issues as far as face coverings, not to wear face coverings, but districts are going to start being faced with the issue about staff members and their issues with either working or not working, and how that's going to play out in the school year. And I think you alerted to the fact that once district kind of put that out to say if you have something, right?
Yeah, I would really encourage principals to work with their superintendent, their HR staff, to put some type of a survey out to their staff in the very near future, saying if you have any reason that you cannot be in face-to-face, especially a medical reason, if you're immunosuppressed, whatever it may be, let us know now. We need to start planning. You don't want to be a week before the start of school and find out that your third grade teacher can't come to school because she has some type of an autoimmune system. You have people that are being treated for cancer and some type of a chemotherapy situation. What about your pregnant teachers? You know, how does that impact them? So start having those conversations now.
Yeah, and I would echo that, and I would just say, just be careful with this, because you really don't want to put something out on your own without consultation with the superintendent and the solicitor, because you don't want to be involved in a HIPAA violation where you ask the wrong question and you ask them, well, what is their conditions? You can't ask that.
Sure. I mean, the survey can be as simple as, do you have a reason why you might not be able to be here? Yes or no. And then leave it up to the higher ups to do their research on that.
Right. And so the final thing I kind of want to explore a little bit today is, and one of the other questions we're getting, so what if there is a case, we get back to school and either on the student's part or staff members, we have a confirmed case. What is the protocol for dealing with that? I mean, whose responsibility is it to make sure that all of those bus kids were contacted, the classroom? Do you close down the classroom? Do you close down the school? We don't really have too much guidance on that right now. Is that correct?
No, we don't have guidance on that. We're expecting some guidance either from the Department of Education or the Department of Health, providing some guidance. But if past history holds true, there won't be specific numbers. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a local decision, or if it depended on community spread, or whatever the case may be. I think the important thing to do here is, as part of your health and safety plan, many of which have already been submitted to the Department of Education, that there be a section in there that relates to how will we handle this. I've worked with some school districts to help them to just develop a screening template as to what do I do? What are the steps that I should take in my school if someone is suspected, if someone comes down with the symptoms, whether it be a student or a staff member. Have you thought about an area in your school that's isolated from the nurse's office, that's isolated from the rest of the students, where you can quarantine in-house if necessary? If you haven't thought about that, you need to start thinking about that kind of thing.
So thanks, Eric. So again, we are expecting some more guidance on that issue from either the Department of Health and or PDE in concert. And as soon as we get that, we'll bring that to you as well. Our plan is, because this is such a moving target and new information is coming out every couple of days, is to continue to do a recorded webinar that Eric and I will be doing every Thursday. We'll record a webinar and then post it out to you as well. And you can make sure that you look for that every Thursday, as long as we're able to still come into the office at this point. In the interim, again, to our members, if you need anything, please call our office. If we're not here, it'll direct you to my cell phone. You can get a hold of me that way, or you can email either Eric or I at any time, because we're still responding to member needs as well. So again, as we say each week, thank you for everything that you're doing. We know this is a big, heavy lift on the part of school leaders. And there's, as I keep saying, we're building this in the air as we go along. And every single day, something is changing that has us go back and look at something else. So stay tuned for more updates from us. Stay healthy and stay safe. And again, if we can do anything for you, please don't hesitate to contact us. Have a great day.